Welcome to London Property News Bulletin. Every week, we break down the key headlines and the wider news that could influence the market, keeping you informed and confident in your decisions. Here is what you need to know this week.
London and the South East are under growing pressure, particularly for flats, second homes and 2 million plus properties, as supply continues to outstrip demand. Agents entered 2026 with the highest stock levels in 8 years, while buyer demand is around 10% lower year on year, according to Zoopla, forcing sellers to cut prices rather than wait. Rising holding costs, higher council tax, second home premiums and the planned mansion tax have made sitting tight increasingly expensive, especially at the top end. While UK house prices rose modestly overall, London prices fell and the South East barely grew, based on Office for National Statistics data. A long-running landlord exit is adding to supply, particularly in London, pushing flat values down further, while coastal markets are being hit by second home sell-offs. Although the Bank of England has cut interest rates, the dominance of 5-year fixed mortgages means cheaper borrowing is feeding through slowly, and weaker job security is holding demand back. The result is a market where buyers have the upper hand and prices, especially in prime southern locations, remain under downward pressure. Leaseholders across England are facing sharply rising service charges and reserve fund demands as leasehold reform stalls, despite primary legislation receiving royal assent. Delays to the secondary legislation, originally promised within 100 days by Labour, have created uncertainty around key protections such as service charge transparency, cheaper lease extensions, and possible ground rent caps. Case studies from Birmingham and London highlight 5-figure bills for major works, often far exceeding original estimates, leaving some residents taking second jobs, unable to sell, or even forced to move out while still paying mortgages. Managing agents and freeholders, including Freshwater Group, First Port and local authorities, deny wrongdoing but face growing scrutiny. The lack of clarity is undermining confidence in the leasehold market, particularly for flats, with buyers. Increasingly wary of open-ended costs and transaction volumes likely to suffer until reforms are fully implemented. London's housing market is undergoing a clear shift away from apartments and towards houses, a trend that began during the pandemic and has since been reinforced by tax changes, higher costs, and a broader market slowdown. Buyers are prioritising space, private outdoor areas, and long-term use, with houses in areas such as Islington and the wider London Donut selling faster and holding value better than flats, according to Hamptons. Apartments, particularly in prime central London, are taking longer to sell and are more likely to be discounted, as high stamp duty, surcharges on international and second home buyers, rising service charges, and lingering fire safety concerns weigh on demand. The end of the non-dom tax regime has further reduced international appetite for London flats, while domestic buyers are increasingly skipping the traditional ladder of successive apartment upgrades and waiting to buy a house outright. As a result, houses are proving more resilient in a weak market, while apartments are increasingly seen as discretionary purchases where buyers have the upper hand and pricing power sits firmly with them.
That wraps this week's London Property News Bulletin. Thank you for listening. If something caught your attention or you need support navigating the impact of the news, then please reach out to us. We're here to guide you. If this was useful, do pass it on to someone who also follows the market, and don't forget to subscribe to stay one step ahead.